Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. So I go to, yesterday, an all-day concealed carry class up here in Idaho. I didn't expect much, and it lived way down to those expectations. The instructor was enthusiastic, and actually I think kind of knowledgeable, but just a really poor instructor. Some people don't know how to teach. And it was hard. I mean, I thought I was going to bleed to death biting my tongue all day long. I wanted to say something, and only once did I jump in and say, no, that's actually incorrect. The law, that's not what the law is. And had to correct it, point them to the right place. Most of the time I just sat there. It was interesting. I mean, and there were 19 people in class, and a lot of them, they were new to this. They didn't know much about it. One thing that came away from the class is understanding that it is vitally important to do press checks almost all day long. It was bizarre. I bet we spent 15 minutes total throughout the day with many demonstrations of doing press checks. Walking around the room showing how you can see the cartridge when you push the slide back. It concerned me, thinking that the way it's demonstrated, that these people who don't have much experience were going to be reaching out there around the muzzle, grabbing the slide and trying to push it back when you're still trying to get some of them to keep their finger off the trigger. The shooting portion lasted all of about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Basically, go shoot 100 rounds and done. No criteria for accuracy or speed or anything else, just shoot 100 rounds. And then the instructor brought in a friend to help with the range portion. This was painful. Not physically, thank goodness. But the range safety officer he brought in was doing a little demo for about 6 or 7 of us. And I don't know how many times he did it before I started counting. But when I finally saw what was going on and really noticed it, I started counting. And in the course of about, 3 minutes, I saw him muzzle himself by actual count 16 times. Pointed the gun at his hands and his arms. I knew it was an empty gun. We knew that, but that old deal doesn't matter. And this is a range safety officer. So I kind of circle back to the whole deal of I've said for many years, people say, I went to such a class and it was great. And I always ask them, how do you know? And it kind of stops them in their tracks like, well, what? Well, how do you know it was good? Well, I was impressed. Well, okay, but what's your frame of reference? Have you been to any other classes? Have you been to multiple firearms training classes? Because if you haven't, then you don't know who's good and who's bad. You just know what was there. And if you learned anything, you go, wow, that was great. I learned something. Okay, that's cool. I guess my takeaway is to encourage anybody who is teaching firearms to master the skill of teaching. I'm reminded of when I was editing Rifle and Handloader magazines, I had a guy who really wanted to be a gun writer, He kept sending me these articles, submitting them for publication. And I kept rejecting them. And after 6 or 7 of these, he wrote me and said, I just don't understand. He says, you keep sending back my articles. He says, I own more than 100 books on guns and reloading and bullets and history. And I have almost encyclopedic knowledge of that. And I wrote him back, I said, that all may be true. You may have an extensive library. You may have read all of them. You may know all this stuff. But as the editor of these magazines, I'm not buying your knowledge, nor am I buying your library. I'm buying your writing. So my question to you is this. How many books about writing have you read? He wrote me back and says, you're right. And then he started, and I recommended some books on writing to him. And he studied them, and he got better and better, and I started publishing his stuff, and he became a published gun writer. He did pretty well after that. And I guess my point on that is if you are a firearms instructor, a concealed carry instructor, whatever, understand it's not your knowledge about guns that people need. It's your teaching talent. And if you can't put together a plan that says this is what a cartridge is, this is what a slide is, and if you're using terms like low ready and telling people to do that, you've never described what low ready is, they don't know what you're talking about. It was, and I knew going in, I'm just checking the box here so I can, go ahead and get the permit. I'm good on this. But I was concerned. I will also say it in the middle of it, and this is one of the parts that irritated me a lot. I'm paying for this class, and in the middle of it, I get a 45-minute commercial for USCCA. Brought in somebody to pitch us on the insurance from USCCA. I didn't pay to get pitched. This was not a timeshare deal where you get a free lunch and a pitch. I don't know what your experience has been with these kind of classes, but that was just one data point. Interesting stuff out there.